I guess imposter syndrome is something I'm very familiar with. It's a familiar demon, if I might say. It comes at me when I'm at the heights of what I do. 10 years in the space of creating stories and telling things, and I still feel imposter syndrome. A lot of people would say that that's not possible. They say it takes 10 years to become a master of doing something, right? 10,000 hours. But I would say, like, I think I'll feel imposter syndrome for the rest of my career. I'll never really feel like I'm the chosen one or this is what essentially I'm supposed to do. Because I enjoy what I do, but the moment I begin to do it for the observation of others, it becomes more than myself. It was very inspiring for me to be here. It made me also recognize that history doesn't have to be left in history, but it can be a part of your everyday. And I was very inspired by that thought and that observation. So, you know, to see that in a city like Rome and see the way it's embraced, see the way everybody embraces it, see the way everybody learns from the culture, just walking around the streets, but at the same time, you can do your business meeting. At the same time, you can do your concerts. At the same time, you can do your conference, regardless of what it is. But then it's still in this artistic stronghold. It was very enticing at the thought of what Africa would look like if. But Rome was able to do that because they were the conqueror, not the conquered. And they had that opportunity to preserve their culture and have their culture in every modern day life. The lines between what is contemporary and what is historic is blurred. And to me, that makes a beautiful cultural space of the 21st century. I began to, you know, question myself, like, what does that look like for African people? What would that look like if we had our civilization uninterrupted by colonialism and conquest? I mean, I already feel like I'm not the only bearer that can educate you in African culture. Every single African artist does that through their work, automatically, whether they want to or not. If you see African art and then you fall in love with it, you're being educated. You know, it might not be an ABC class, but you're being educated. If you fall in African music, you're being educated through Afro beats about African culture. It shocks me that they needed I Show Speed to tell them about African culture. So you don't. So if where do you think Whiskey get his cool from? Like, are you guys kidding me? You see Whiskey, you see Burna Boy, you go to their concerts, and you're telling me that you needed I Show Speed. That's social media propaganda. I don't believe that. They already knew that Africa was cool. If they needed I Show Speed to travel around Africa in 20 days across 26 countries, he didn't even scratch the surface. He didn't even scratch. It's like it's everybody's responsibility. Like, you know, even Asian people are making Afrobeat music. I feel like all cultures need education. All cultures need to be exported. It makes the world a more global society. It blurs the lines between color and differences. If I can understand you, I can love you. So all cultures need education, but forced or purposeful ignorance is pathetic. It doesn't matter what color you are, you can be racist to yourself. And racism is not a white disease anymore. Neither is it a disease of the opposite race. It's a disease, period. And, you know, the cure is being intentional about your interest. I think, like, the deeper question about, like, the education of cultures and things, I mean, take what really you find fascinating from it. If it's the fashion that you like, you take that in. If it's the music that you like, you take that in. Let that be your conduit into that culture. Afrobeats is not African music. Afrobeats is Nigerian music. Let that be known. There's so many other African music. Senegalese music has a whole different tone. You know, Guinean high life has a whole different tone. South African house and amapiano has a whole different tone and vibration, and even within that, there are so many kinds of amapiano. When you begin to hear a South African talk about the different kinds of amapiano, you're flabbergasted. You know, African art doesn't look the same way either. You know, not every African artist is going to have paints their people with very dark skin and very bright colored clothes, which was a trend that was happening amongst African artists in like 2 years ago. Not everybody is going to paint that way. Not everyone is going to sculpt with bronze. And if I choose to make my sculpt through a futuristic means, which is 3D printing, then I choose to represent the youth of the continent that embraces technology and uses it to amplify their culture. I really feel that's what me making this exhibition as Anyanwu really represents. Me sharing with everyone that I am African, and not only am I African, I am spiritual in the African way. And I love our traditions, and I love our rituals, and I love our way of life, and I love our thinking of the cosmos and the world beyond us. And I want to share that with you, and I want to make you understand it.